right, welcome to the next episode of New Year Black Me. This is in regards to William Zachary Harvey. He was 60 years old. On April 2nd, he was found hanging in a police interrogation room. He was questioned in regards to an attack on someone, not to say he was an actual suspect, but he was being interrogated. Following this, now he was handcuffed to the rail. If you know the interrogation rooms, how they usually put a handcuff, one hand handcuffed to the rail of the desk. And it is said that there was no surveillance and during the interrogation, and when they stepped out of the room, they being the police officers, when they came back, he was able somehow to have his unravel his shoelaces and hang himself. That is what they said, that they came back and they saw him hanging. They had nothing to do with it. However, when the family asked for video, they said they didn't have it, but a police investigation was done, and it was found that they had the body cameras turned off, but when they came back in the room, they turned it on, and it was said that there was mocking of his situation. Try not to say it on YouTube, but they mocked the situation that he was in, the hanging. They also had texts mocking it, and they were fired because of that. They were fired because of the protocol of not having him being left alone for that period of time, for not having recordings, and as well as the inappropriate text messages and the behavior they had while they were on video camera after they came back in. And some was speculated they were just outside the room and while this was happening. So the question is, were they just there watching, or did they do something?
Tonight, a shocking revelation about that in-custody death at the Savannah Police Department. You might remember investigators determined William Harvey hanged himself while alone in the interview room. But Harvey's family isn't so sure. They've been asking investigators for surveillance video of the incident as a result. Now, our Brooke Butler joins us now live to explain why the family hasn't seen that video. Brooke.
Shannon, in short, that video doesn't exist. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, officers failed to turn on surveillance cameras in the interview room the day Harvey died.
What happened to her son?
Attorneys for the family of William Harvey demanding answers and accountability after learning police officers failed to turn on surveillance cameras in the room where 60-year-old William Harvey lost his life.
Unfortunately, what happened in that room in the moments before officers came in to allegedly find Mr. Harvey in the condition that he was in, we will unfortunately never know.
Attorneys say they learned this information during a meeting with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation on Thursday. On Friday, the GBI gave the green light to the Savannah Police Department to meet with the family.
This chief, quite frankly, stood up and said to this family that he apologized for the lack of communication.
The police chief told attorneys the reason he couldn't communicate with them sooner was because the GBI was involved and he didn't have permission from them yet to speak on the matter, something that was echoed in this statement put out by the police department on Friday.
I think we all could appreciate where Chief Mentor found himself in terms of the information flow, but at the same time, this was far too long. Some
more revelations unveiled by attorneys on Friday that Harvey allegedly had one hand cuffed to a rail when he died and that a shoelace was used in the incident.
We believe the narrative is put out that he was able to unlace his shoelaces and configured in such a way that he could strangle himself, hang himself, and do that all while two members of the police department stood outside and watched. What a terrible tragedy.
Well, Brooke, what's next in this investigation?
Shannon, attorneys tell me that a toxicology has to be conducted and the GBI has to present their findings to the district attorney. And overall, the family just hopes that this investigation will wrap up in the next 60 to 90 days. Shannon.
All right, Brooke, thank you. Now, to read the full statement from Savannah Police, head to our website. That's WJCL.com.
Now, I cannot speak for all, and I will not speak for all. But when I had to watch interrogations, working as a CLI at a state attorney's office. When I had to watch interrogations, it was recorded. It was either video recorded, and if they stepped out, which they usually don't step out, like I've only seen them step out where like one person goes out and another person comes in, or they step out literally for like a second and come back in, usually because they're probably conversing with another officer, and they come right back in. Like it's literally, you know, out and then right back in. And it's either video camera, or in some instances I have seen audio. So the audio is on the entire time. There have been investigations where it wasn't recorded, or we have never seen the recording, usually because the other attorney or the public defender probably requests all of those, but they would still have a recording, at least on their end. I find it strange that in the police interrogation room, he was able, with one hand, because the other one is handcuffed, take his shoelaces and hang himself. And all that time, and no one knew what was going on. But they find him that way, but found it funny and mocked him. I think they were fired to avoid the whole scandal of them being charged with, you know, them having to do something with his death. It is a slap in the face that, one, all of these hangings, these mysterious lynchings, are being found as suicide. Trees, outside in random places, far away from civilization, found in the cornfield, like that boy who went with his friend and they don't know how he got there. The family who had him, seen him last with a friend, didn't know how he got there. And car stuff stolen, not cars, like. And now it's another thing that you know. And then you have Sandra Bland, where they're in the room, like their cell, and then they said, "Oh, they just hung himself." But now you're going to sit in our face and try to convince us that in the middle of an interrogation, you step out, and all of a sudden he decides that he wants to hang himself. Nothing to show that he was on the verge of being convicted of this big, huge situation, but that he was just being interrogated. Not that he was your number one suspect or anything like that, that he was just being interrogated. And all of a sudden, out the blue, he just wants to do that. It makes me angry that people can sit here and be this ignorant, that they're okay with seeing things like this happen. I you know what? I'm so upset because I want to stay right now in my feminine state, but it's hard to, because it is so uncomfortable to just be in this position to just pretend like nothing happened. Maybe ignorance is bliss, because right now, not being ignorant, being aware of what's happening in my surroundings, it makes me want to scream. It makes me upset. It makes me like want to shout to the mountaintops, because after all, how can we sit here so cute and sweet and pretend like the world is great, because it's not. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic, because there are many great things that are going on, and I'm blessed, that things are going well for me, even during the pandemic, and even better so than the year before, and then the year before that. I think that I'm blessed that I'm in an area, that my children are in an area where they do not have to experience this constantly, and they are around people who have the same mind frame as I do, with some respect. But it's upsetting because I'm also in the same position that this could happen to me. This could happen to our family members. This could happen to you. And for us to sit here and not be outraged, and we just accept the fact that, oh, this is another hanging and another suicide. No, This needs to be something that we speak about. This needs to be something that we learn to open up our mouths and say, this is going to end here. Because I don't know, like I get so bothered hearing these stories. Sometimes I actually have to take a break because so many stories just upset me so much. I can't report on all of it because I'm just going to be sit here irritated with the fact that, like, are you kidding me? And they want to convince us that this is what's happening. And then they put some face that looks like us to try to convince us as, well, it appears based on the evidence that this happened. Have you seen that they grab barely any evidence and we are in jail? And then there's like evidence that with so many holes, and they're like, hey, we did our investigation. It took 4, 5, 6, wait, April, May, June. It took 2 months before we could do anything. Yeah, just like we did an investigation, and it took months before we heard about, was it 2.5 months before we heard about the Arbery story? It took like months before we hear about all these stories, and they're saying they're doing some full investigation. Or they close the investigation so quickly, and they said, well, they've gathered no information. Like, what happened to Mr. Harvey is upsetting because they can do this in a police interrogation room and get away with it. Like, how do you explain that? In a police interrogation room where you can see right through the room on the other side. No one has seen, like, what did they go to lunch or something? And then they come back and all this has happened? And then there's no video footage? And then they're mocking him. And all they get is being fired? Not that this happened and then there's no footage of them mocking or inappropriate conduct, but there's inappropriate conduct. They're laughing at what happened to him. Remember? They did the same thing to, what was his name? Isaiah? Remember the boy Isaiah that he was walking home and he had, I forgot, he had some type of situation where he had his face covered in a mask because I can't remember the condition he had, but he got super cold all the time. So he had to put that over his face, and they beat him. And they made a joke out of it and mocked him. How are you not upset about this? People, we have to say something. We have to do something. It is not enough for us to sit here and pretend like these things are not happening. Look at my video. I'm doing videos of hangings often. And then I did another video at the one of the last video I did. If you look at the end, there's a number. I just did a number of videos where they had all these hangings. And that was just too many to count. Hangings from trees and wooden like branches or on playgrounds. And it's time to wake up, people. You're gonna have to get a dose of the red pill. And we're not talking about this man red pill thing. We're talking about the red pill of life. Just like the Matrix. You can either live in this world where you pretend and think everything is great, or you have this real pill and you can understand what America is like and learn how to adapt and what you can do. So this red pill is not to make you feel angry that you can't do anything and that all hope is lost. No, this is a pill to make you wake up, realize what's happening, and open up your mouth and be part of the solution instead of pretending like there's nothing wrong. We're not going to be sitting on this area where we're going to pretend like everything is so freaking great. We're not going to do that. We're not. Our voices need to be heard. That's all I have to say. So I'm just going to go ahead and end it here and let you watch the video. All right, like, comment, and subscribe.